Week 44 of the Crafted Concept, and this week is all about professional learning, ongoing, continual professional development for coaches, for instructors, for teachers, for leaders of learning, because without being an ever learner, without encapsulating what it is to be curious, to be open-minded, to be willing to accept critique and possibly think laterally and change our approaches, then we become stuck. And being stuck is stagnated. Being stagnated is not performing as optimally as we can as leaders of learning, and thus how we can role model to those who we are instructing. Too often in the educational space, through the coaching of elite sport, the idea of professional learning, the idea of CPD, continuous professional development, sits in the margins. It sits on the side, and it's something that just gets helicoptered in on an inset day. Someone comes through, delivers an interesting presentation, and by 30 minutes later, all we want to do is go and crack on with the things we need to do to prepare for term. We've heard that rhetoric so many times. Teachers, colleagues, those of you out there, you've been there. You've done the coffee at break time that says, all I want to be doing is going and setting up my classroom. Helicoptering in, or some kind of online training course, you need to do this, you get an email notification, do this new, I don't know, biohacking, whatever course it is, then that, skipping through all the slides to get to the assessment and hoping you get your 80% to pass, I know who you are because I've been that person, that is not effective professional learning. That is not embedded, integrated, cultural professional learning. And that's where we need to get to if we want to challenge our environments to be the very best that they can be. The new Ofsted Inspection Ready Toolkit, available from this month, November 2025, states explicitly that professional learning is to be judged not on isolated initiatives, the helicoptered in individuals to deliver on inset day, but whether professional learning, whether the development of instructors is embedded and sustained over time. Now, leaders, that's within the leadership chapter of the Ofsted document. Leaders in the educational setting are expected to show sustained professional learning over time. In parallel, the Football Association, Rugby Football Union, English Cricket Board, you name it, the top national governing bodies all have similarly phrased initiatives based around continued professional learning for coaches. There's a reason for that. Those frameworks exist so that the crafted instructor, whether teacher or coach or any other leader of learning, understands that to hone their craft and to be agile, dynamic, and expansive in their delivery as an instructor, to create the greatest learning environments, we need to be honed, cultivated, rather than just certified, just slap a certificate on that. Yeah, I did that. That was my inset day. Commitment to continuous growth is the engine room for sustained excellence. So that culture of continuous professional learning that is expected for all educators under Ofsted and Independent Schools Inspectorate from November and January onwards states that we have to show sustained development over time. This moves beyond one-off initiative and points towards systems, habits, and collective ownership of what that learning looks like for colleagues. Therefore, leaders in education are going to have to show that professional learning, firstly, aligns with strategic priorities and that they're visible, demonstrable, tangible in everyday work for colleagues. Secondly, leaders are going to have to model what that learning looks like and what they expect. And in that sense, their own development is far from optional. Just because you're in a senior leadership position, you are open and expected to demonstrate the same levels of strategic priority towards your individual professional learning, your collective professional learning as a leadership group, as a standard bod teacher. Thirdly, success isn't measured by one single event. Just because you've been able to afford or you've been willing to spend budget on one really big name speaker to come in, an author, whoever it is, and deliver, to the entire common room, that does not show sustained development for staff. That is a one-off podium event. Instead, the parameters by which all schools will be judged are about transparent and regular professional development. In the elite sports sector, qualified coaches for all the biggest, largest participatory sports in this country are expected to show their professional learning pathway via regular professional development, which goes onto their coaching pathway. So they are held accountable for the regularity with which they're engaging with new material, either additional reading, additional course material, or workshops on new law changes, etc. That continuous learning is essential. This opens up a really interesting and niche opportunity for schools, for elite sports coaches to begin to connect laterally, bidirectionally, either with each other across discipline or with other schools, other departments, other faculties, and connect ideologies and thought processes as we move towards trying to be the best versions of ourselves as instructors for our learners. And that's where the crafty concept can be of the great assistance to you, because through my expertise to come in and observe your learning environment, learning design and learning critique across the three strands of the crafty concept, then I can challenge your staff, your leaders, your coaches to be the best versions of themselves and be accountable to being the best versions of themselves at all times. And if that's of interest, you know where to find me. A crafted instructor ensures that professional learning is woven into the experience, whether senior leadership, elite coach, the gaffer, the manager, the assistant coach, the middle leadership team, whoever you are expected to participate in regular critique, regular lateral thinking towards your own professional development. And there are many ways in which we can begin to achieve that. Firstly, what about collaborative inquiry? Engaging in cross-study of practice, having practice groups where coaches observe each other's teaching either through video or face-to-face, and then comment, engage, discuss, observe what it is that they've seen and analyze. Learning doesn't need to be didactic. Learning can be social. Learning can be connection. Secondly, reflective routines are essential, and we should know this already, but the nature of the fast pace of delivery when it comes to teaching, our day-to-day is hectic, it's busy. If you're coaching, as the National League team that I work with do, in the evening after people have been at work during the day, this becomes really difficult. But post-session debriefs, video review, conversation between athlete, players, staff, peer observation from pupils back up towards teachers, all about what went well, how to critique, how to adapt for the future, are fantastic practices to make routine and culturally normal within your environment. And finally, ongoing cycle. Develop, apply, review loops. So almost be curious, be dynamic, be playful with your approach towards your practice, because in being playful, then we can be open-minded enough, curious enough to make as many mistakes, failures, and adapt and learn and grow from them as possible. This doesn't come from a one-off course. It doesn't come from an online video tutorial. Yes, those things are great, but only when you connect them with that social piece and hold up the mirror towards your practice. It's one thing to watch a YouTube tutorial of a new practice design that you could do. It's another thing to implement it, review it yourself, and then ask your players to review it back to you. How did it feel? What would you do differently next time? Was the space the right kind of size of grid that we needed? Were the touches, were the progressions that I asked you to do the right ones? How did it feel? Then through refinement, rather than just receipt of information, that feedback loop gets closed and we develop. Learning needs to be purposeful. It needs to be contextual. If not contextual, then it lacks relevance to the craft that you're attempting to exude upon your learners. So if you're a teacher, but you're not actually instructionally considering how you would approach applying this new teaching and learning theory into your classroom and literally trying it out, then you're never going to know. You're not reflecting the real thing. You're not training as you play. The same goes for sports coaches. Your new session design has to be related to the reality of your craft, because if it isn't, it's too generic. It lacks precision. And if it lacks precision, it lacks proper feedback. And without proper feedback, we can't grow, we can't develop. The biggest factor, the biggest comment that is ever made when it comes to trying to implement the types of things I'm talking about through the crafted concept this week of professional learning is always, time is always the one. And so leaders, it is on you to make that time, to allocate that time, to facilitate the fact that that time is essential to draw your staff, your colleagues, your coaches together and give them time to collaborate, give them time to co-plan, give your coaches the opportunity to access coach development, make it a cultural norm, give it capital within your environment that you should be seeking that level of critique, and that time being allocated to you is used resourcefully. Why would professional learning be so foregrounded by national governing bodies, Ofsted, by ISI? Well, for obvious reasons. The ripple effects of embedded and continuous professional learning are profound. Consistency of practice. When everyone is growing, when the expectation that everyone is experiencing a level of discomfort in order to grow, then the learner experience is going to become more coherent. It's going to become more effective. If our learners are better, we're performing better. If we're performing better, we feel better, more intrinsically motivated, both within here and collectively. Second, we become more adaptable in dynamic contexts when we're introducing new curriculum or evolving our tactics out on the sports field, or whether we're trying to integrate new technology into our classroom. Then embedding learning ensures that that playful approach to the mistakes that we're going to make and the feedback that we want access to ensures that we're ready rather than just scrambling about, or worse, and you're the worst for this, teachers, moaning about it. Knowledge and skills become more sustainable, more applicable. They're drawn down more regularly, coherently from the long-term memory. As we discuss with our learners in a classroom or on the sports field, they're elicited within a spaced retrieval environment. Spaced retrieval practice, concrete examples, integrated over the time with new material and therefore interleaved with new experiences that we've had since the last time we tried out that new technique. All of these things we would talk about when it comes to our learners. Verbatim, no problem. We need those things. They're research-led, they're evidence-based. And yet with those one-off helicoptered speakers that come in for inset, or that one-off YouTube tutorial that you watch, that one workshop that you do because you have to on your FA learning protocol, that isn't sustainable because we're not creating cycles of learning. It's just a one-off wow event. Organizations where development is part of the fabric, where professional learning is just culturally normal, accepted, expected, send the message that that improvement, that willingness to fail, to make mistakes, to access feedback, to seek feedback is valuable. So how then are we going to embed professional learning as a complete cultural norm, something that's valued within our learning environment? Firstly, development just becomes the rhythm of the year, the expectation of a staff member, of a coach, that you will engage with peer collaboration, you will engage in mutual observation, in critique, in feedback, in professional learning that's occurring internally. You will be in attendance because that's the expectation here. That's what we love. That's what we enjoy. Those are the conversations that are had within our common room or within our staff room, football club, at the hockey club. Leaders need to lead by doing. Ofsted state it, ISI now state it as well. You've got to engage in the same cycles of learning and model reflexive practice to everyone else in the organization, because if you're doing it, you're modeling it, you're being the best version of yourself. No one's got any excuse. There's no ivory tower bias here. We need to create the right ways in which to measure success. So let's not measure success by attendance in the traditional way. Make sure you attend 2 CPDs a year, otherwise you're going to lose your coaching license. That isn't the way to measure. Attendance is not a measurement. Success, implementation, feedback from athletes, feedback from students, that is the way that we can measure actual integration of practice of professional learning. And encourage collective responsibility. Learning is not the job of one individual. Make departments accountable. Make academy age groups accountable. Because when embedded within a team culture, those shared goals, common languages around reflexive practice, all become a critical mass that can't be changed. That is a steamroller that's moving in one direction, and that's towards critique, feedback, growth, performance.